All right, so I guess somebody comes into the Discord and they have an idea, and I guess what's the first thing they do? The first thing they do is they got to sign the Hoove agreement to become a Hoover. And once they've done that, they get 5,000 AR, and then they got to figure out what on earth they're going to do with it. And then, let's say they decide they want to start a company. All right, awesome. They need to go to the ideatrack.io dashboard. Same place they
Can we back it up? Sorry to interrupt, but can we back it up a little bit?
Yes.
And so someone comes into the Discord, cool. They go sign the DAO agreement. Where is the DAO agreement? I guess. Like, let's just lay this out really nicely for literally anyone coming in.
Oh, okay. All right. So they made it into the Discord. They talked to one of us, and then we send them to ideatrek.io/dashboard, and they will land there, and it will prompt them to log in, and then immediately it will say they do not have permission to view that page. And so what they need to do next is ask somebody, hey, can I please have permission to view the page? And once they ask, one of us will go into the back end and assign them permissions, and we'll ask them to refresh the page a few times. And once they've done that, they will see the a Hoove agreement. And so they'll read that over, they'll update their photos, some other things, email address, whatever. Sign that agreement, and once they've signed that agreement, then they're in. They will get 5,000 AR, which will be shown to them on the website when they're logged in. And then they got to figure out what on earth to do with it. And let's say they... Yeah.
Right. Just a point to add that's potentially important is it's having them ask for help is intentional, right? Because we want, at least at this stage, we want people who are engaged enough to actually ask if it's not able to log in at that point.
Oh, straight up. Yeah. If they're like, oh, I don't have permission, and they walk away, it's like, well,
you were that motivated for this. Yeah.
But yeah, if somebody asks for help, they'll absolutely get it in a second, and then great, awesome. So they've asked for help. They get in, and they'll refresh the page, and they'll see their dashboard, which will have all this fancy stuff on it. And some of it we've talked about in other channels, so we'll focus this time on what if they want to start a project. Well, they'll see a button that says EPE projects, and they can click that. We won't talk about what an EPE is yet. They can see that on other videos, I think. But they'll click that, and they'll say create new project, and they'll create their project. Put in, like, who the founders are, what each founder is doing, a description of the company, and they'll submit it. So then what they got to do is go into the Discord and find Jeremy. Say, hey, Jeremy, I just submitted a new project. Can you please approve it? And Jeremy will go and approve it. Not that there's any sort of filter on that whatsoever, but it's, again, the same thing as before. Just ask. If you can't ask somebody to approve your project, how on earth are you going to ask somebody to buy the thing that you're building in your project? So he asked Jeremy to approve it, and he'll approve it. So then once it's approved, you got to find. Well, you don't have to, but some of the other Hoovers who have chosen to become EPEs, equity pool executives, might choose to work on that with you. Well, now you got your co-founder. If nobody just kind of reaches out, well, go and ask somebody to work on it with you. Build a relationship and ask them for help. When the EPE joins, they'll be the sort of resource to help you, get more resources so that you can work on your project, whether it's sourcing CBD oils or building a website or figuring out provenance or whatever else it is. that you need in order to get your thing going. And that's sort of where the person who had the idea or the brand new Hoover kind of stops, because they'll have their task at that point. Maybe they're a developer and they'll be building the software, and the EPE we match them with will handle the sales. Or maybe they're the salesperson and the EPE we match them with is on the development side. But in any event, all the people will have their role based on their skill sets. So what happens next? What happens next? So next, it's kind of now it's up to the EPE, the sort of expert, the Hoove person who's been around for a while. It's up to them to really kind of push this forward, navigate, make things happen, bring on allies and whatnot. The first thing the EPE is going to do is create a Hoove pool for the project. What does this mean? So Hoove pool is where people who own Hoove can contribute Hoove or commit Hoove to the project. And that's pretty good when somebody commits Hoove to the project, because you can use that then to incentivize other people to help you out. Maybe you need someone to do sales and you'll pay them in Hoove. Or maybe you need some cash, and so you go sell Hoove on a decentralized exchange, which we're adding more as much as they come out throughout the Chia ecosystem. Get it up there, and you can sell that Hoove to somebody else, get cash, and then use that to help grow your business, maybe buy Facebook ads or whatever it is you need to buy. So you have a sort of source for funding, and you can use that source of Hoove to do whatever you want. The EPE is in charge of managing and organizing all of that so that you can focus on whatever your skill set is, whether that's on the technical side or the client development side. And then you just kind of grow the company. Now, hopefully you grow the company so big that it exits for $1 million. Let's say that you grow a great company and somebody comes along and wants to pay $1 million for it. Amazing. And so let's say it's you and a co-founder, and Hoove are the main interested parties here. And say this company sold for $1 million. So 10% of that million goes to the person that had the idea, the person who created the project, the original person who came in and filled out all those forms and went through all the processes to do it. They'll get 10%, so they'll get $100,000. And another 10% will go to the Hoove pool. So everybody that contributed Hoove to the project will split that 10% commensurately with how much Hoove they committed. The other 80% will be distributed between between the three co-founders. That is Hoove, represented by the EPE, and the two co-founders of the company. We're assuming there's two. There could be one. There could be five. There could be 10. They'll all split that 80% equally, and huzzah! That 80%. Let's say, so if it's $1 million and that's $800,000, and each of the three are getting $266,000. So they each get $266,000 AR. So the Hoove manages the sale of the company and handles all the paperwork and all that nonsense, and collects the cash, $1 million, pays out the Hoove pool, and the rest of it gets paid out to the Hoovers in AR. So if you were the founder, you created the idea and you were one of the founders, you got 10,000, or wait a second, you got 100,000 AR because it's 10% of the $1 million exit. And then you also got 266,000 AR in your founder share. So you got 366,000 AR added to you. Now, you can cash out all but 15,000 of that AR, just take a check. Or you can say, I want to become an EPE, and I want to join the board. We've talked about those in other channels. And in which case, you can withdraw all but 45,000 of that AR. So each role that you want is 15,000. So your initial role to join the EPE, your second role to join the board, and your third role to take a quote unquote take a salary. Each is 15,000. So 366,000 minus 45,000 is $311,000 check that you'll get, and you'll be at your max AR which means that you can start working on another project, use that AR to grow the company, and support other new Hoovers that are coming in, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the cycle continues on and on. There it is. There's the life cycle of joining Hoove, starting a company, exiting a company, and supporting the next group coming up in your wake.
And I know that this kind of goes against your entire sort of ethos of starting companies. So prefacing that before I even ask the question. But what happens if like a company gets to a point where they feel like they need to raise additional capital to like if they're like doing well growing, but they're like, we want to double down and need to go raise outside money? How would that sort of be handled?
So there's two ways to do that. One, they could just issue a huge Hoove round and collect it all in Hoove. But if they want, and then go sell that Hoove on the market. But if for whatever reason the liquidity's not there in Hoove and somebody just wants to write a direct check, another option is rather than having it be owned by Hoove the entire time and have Hoove manage all of that, you could spin it off into a separate corporation. When you spin it off, Hoove was an original founder, just like anybody else would be an original founder, so that they would have a stake in that new corporation. Now, if that new corporation wants to raise capital in the traditional method, Hoove would have their EPE on there as the representative of their stake, and would participate in that raise as much as the rest of the founders would participate in that.
Yep.
So you can absolutely spin this off into a separate corporation. The only issue with doing that is now you've got to handle the accounting and you've got to handle like all the other stuff that comes along with this, and that's all added cost. If we've got a $10 billion business, hell yeah, we're going to spin it off. But if we're, hawking stuff and then we're looking for like a 50K, 100K thing, does it really make sense to do that? I don't know. Those are decisions that we'll make, as we roll. But it's absolutely an option. And, Hoove retains their stake just as any, initial co-founder would retain their stake in any other company. And if you try to screw us, we'll go to court and enjoy ourselves. My favorite place.
I'm just trying to think of like what other questions might like founders have, like if someone's coming in, like what else might be top of mind for them.
Is my idea gonna get? People always ask, is my idea gonna get stolen, and am I gonna get screwed? That's what. That's people's whole issue. I need to own my whole company.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, I need to. I'm worried that it's gonna go in the wrong direction. I don't want to get screwed. I don't want to have what happened to the guys at Facebook. The first thing I always say is all the guys that got screwed at Facebook made out like bandits, so I wouldn't worry about that. And two is like you can worry about that all day until you have a company. It's not really worth it, and once you have a company, it's then not even worth it. So all you're really doing is showing that you can't focus on what's really important. You probably shouldn't start a company to begin with.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah, but also on a serious note, right? That's what some of the paperwork is for, right? It's protecting both parties from both sides. And yeah, it's a flimsy document, but what document really isn't?
It's a flimsy document, but if you show it to a judge, they will side in your favor.
Yeah,
Judges are not stupid.
Yep.
Judges are not stupid. They know this shit. And if somebody tries to pull something on you and you show them any of the documents that we have you signed, they will side with you. Even if you don't have those documents, you just tell your story, they will side with you. That is literally what happened in the Facebook case. The twin brothers and that other dude just told their story, and the judge was like, "This guy's a freaking creep. Pay him out." So, all the paperwork in the world won't save you, and all the paperwork in the world won't kill you.
Yeah.
Judges are reasonable.
Right. So, some of the other questions, I think, just not that I have, but I think
I can't hear anything.
What's that? Sorry. Okay. So some of the other things might be, right, how do I get Hoove? And I think you've already partially answered that, right, on distributed exchanges. We have some offers for for Hoove on several exchanges right now. There's a there's close to $1,000 on Hashgreen, Hash.green exchange. There's a handful of other dexes. Dexy.space is one of them. Offerpool.io is another one. So we are getting Hoove out there. Now, generally, we have listed Hoove in exchange for some Chias, for some XCH. And that is based, the amount of Chia that we're looking for is pretty much right in line with the index, maybe a little bit more for right now, but that price can always be reduced. As the index moves and as the price of Chia itself moves up and down. So there's that. Anything to add on that?
No, I did redo the Idea Trek /Hoove page, which has a link to Hashgreen so that people can purchase it there. And I did set up the whole thing so that people can commit their Hoove with a little dashboard for them to look at as well.
Yep.
So that is, yeah, that's all there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I think it's cool, but it'll change over time as people give feedback and we develop it, and eventually we will have a designer come and make all this pretty. That is coming. John has said he will do that as his civic duty, so that is good. All the stuff that looks pretty on the website is because of John, and all the stuff that's not pretty is because John did not do it.
Yeah, can you also send John my way? I just want to talk to him about the maybe he and I can start talking about separating Idea Trek from the other website that was bought, the hoovedao.xyz, which right now just redirects to Idea Trek.
We should have that redirect to the IdeaTrek /Hoove or /Hoove.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, right now I think it just goes to DAO.
Yeah, it just goes to the homepage.
Yeah.
But we can have do that.
But yeah, so maybe starting to separate that and like what is what, right, just to alleviate some of the confusion, and as you say often enough, start making this thing look legit. Right, so because sometimes it's confusing when you talk to someone and they're like, oh yeah, it's Hoove, it's a DAO, and then you take them to this ideatrek.io and they're like, well, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Part of that's the part of the other tests that we're, if that's enough to dissuade somebody, that's fine. But we are getting to a point where we do have to think more about conversion rate and all that
Yeah.
jazz. So
yeah.
So it is going to be time to start doing that, and we can, probably the move. I guess actually the move would be to switch the domain that we have for Idea Trek and just switch that out with the XYZ one. And I can handle that.
Yeah, I mean, however we want to do it, you, me, and him can all get together and figure it out in like 30 minutes and go from there.
Yeah, it won't take long to get that settled.
Okay. So the other thing that you kind of said and glossed over a little bit, but so when people commit Hoove to a project, right? This person can use Hoove to pay people, right? If someone comes in and like you say, hey, I need some art designed, you say, as the EPE, you can say, okay, here's 50 Hoove or 100 Hoove or whatever it is. Go design me a logo. So once that Hoove is committed, what's the how does that transact through the entire process?
Once the Hoove is committed, how does that transact throughout the entire process?
how does that Hoove move? How does that Hoove coin move? Right, because you can
Oh,
say, oh, okay, I'm going to commit
yeah.
500 Hoove to this project. What happens to that Hoove at that point?
Okay, right. So all right, so let's say you went onto the exchange and you bought 500 Hoove, and you then commit it to a project. When you commit your Hoove, you're actually uploading an offer file to the website, and that will go to the EPE for the project. And and then when the EPE accepts that offer, they will receive that Hoove, and then they will send that person an NFT, and that NFT will say, CDL Trucks NFT 100 Hoove committed. So the person who committed the Hoove will then receive an NFT in exchange. And when it comes time, when the exit happens, they'll present that NFT and say, "Money, please." They could also, of course, if they wanted to, go out and sell that NFT to somebody else, and then that person can bring that NFT at exit time and say, "Money, please." So a secondary market does sort of develop, which is, the dynamics of that are going to be pretty interesting and unpredictable.
Yeah.
But that I'm not worried too much about what those dynamics will be. Markets will do what markets do. We're just saying, like, here's the NFT, and then of course it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. So you get an NFT, ideally, or whatever. You just hold it, and then when exit time comes, you redeem it for the cash. But you can, of course, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. It's the beauty of the NFT. Did I hit it?
Yeah, I think so. Now, at least when you and I were testing, the offer file was for like 100 mojos, Chia mojos, which is extremely low. But I guess that
We can change that. We can make that whatever we want it to be.
yeah, I don't think that matters as much. But what I think is good about that is it really enables all of the EPEs, no matter who they are. I mean, the EPEs should be hitting the faucets and getting that, or getting Chia other ways, even if it's just buying it outright. But it really enables all of the EPEs to go and say, yeah, okay, I'll take your 1,000 Hoove, I'll take your 500 Hoove, right? And be able to take a lot of it in, because it's really necessary for this whole process.
I wouldn't say it's like absolutely necessary. It's just another resource that you have. Like, you're trying to build a company, right? We're not trying to trade tokens. We're not trying to, rug pull an NFT. We're trying to build something. And so when you're building something, you need resources. And one resource is cash. Another resource is people. We're adding another set of resources and a broader scope of resources, so that you don't, like, oh, I don't have cash, I can't do it. Oh, I don't, have people, I can't do it. Well, in all those cases, you can get all those things pretty easily through the Hoove dynamic. Yeah, it's not going to be, here's cash. Oh, wow, now you're $1 billion company. It's like, here's some cash, and I'll get to work. Here's some Hoove, and I'll get to work. Here's some cash, and I'll get to work. Here's some people, and I'll get to work. The more it shocks me every single time that you get into this and people are like, "Oh, I got to raise money. Hey, I just raised $1 million. I'm a $1 billion company now." It's like, no, what? You have to do some work. You got to do something. And the shocking thing is, if you don't have that money, the work that you do actually ends up being way better. So these are all tools and resources. They're not, determinant of your eventual success.
And maybe just a thing to be explicit about, which is maybe intuitive, but part of the whole benefit of this model is that if you are part of the Hoove network, everyone is incentivized for your company to be successful. because if Hoove is like essentially a shareholder in the company, we all want you to do well. So there's no like with other freelancers, you know, they might do like what you say to the word of what you ask them to do, but it's actually useless. Like that kind of thing is much less likely in the Hoove network.
That's exactly what the freelancers will do. They'll say they'll ask for as specific an SLA as they can possibly get, so that you don't sue them. Or if you do try to sue them, they'll win. In this case, everybody's got an invested interest in what you're doing. Absolutely. So you can go out on your own, and you know what? You'll own 90% of your company, and you'll end up getting chipped away to death as you start to raise more cash and you run out of things. But you'll own 90% of it at the beginning, and you'll be really excited that you own 90% of nothing. But you won't have people around you who haven't, you know, people will care. Like, oh, you're running a company. That's wonderful. I'm so excited for you. Anything I can do to help? Oh, yeah, you can come do sales for me. Oh, I'm too busy for that right now. Right? They'll say they're interested, but they don't really have an interest. Whereas everybody in the Hoove crew, whatever, you know, actually has an interest in your company succeeding. They all benefit when it does well, and you can't replace that. I mean, people who like literally care, not say they care or act like they care. Plenty of people are so good at acting like they care, but people who have to care, they're incentivized to care. You have a whole group of them, but you got to deliver too. It's not just a lot of people have started projects in here and they're like, oh, why isn't it going anywhere? Well, are you doing anything? I didn't realize you had to do anything. What do you think this is?
Yeah.
You gotta get, you know, I love Silicon
You're still
Valley.
founding a company at the end of the day, right? Like that's like you are trying to found a company, which is like is not an easy task.
It's the hardest thing in the world. There really is nothing more difficult than that. Maybe having kids is more difficult. No, you know what? Actually, you know what? I've gotten in trouble for this argument before, so we'll just put this on the table. We'll table.
Another question
Matt,
that I
what do
think
you think? Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm probably the most qualified to talk about from both sides. I haven't come to a determination yet.
Okay.
How's that for a good political answer?
Wonderful.
Not offending either side.
Adrian, you missed that. We had a oh boy, we had a raucous.
We can talk about that separately.
Yeah, we can. All right.
I'm looking forward to it. Another question I think people could have, and I think I know the answer, but just so we have it on record, are there like certain types of companies that we're trying to prioritize, or like only like are we only looking at like software companies or things like that that we want people to come on and build?
Dude, I really no. You could bring me a painting business, or you could bring a software business, or you could bring a you know, an art dealer business, or whatever it is. You know, it doesn't even have to involve software or computer building or whatnot whatsoever. The point of this is not to necessarily do software; it's to build companies, and those can be built out of anything. So, you know, people have come and said that before. Oh, I'm not a software company. How can I benefit from this? I'm like, well, would you benefit from 20 people caring about your business? Yeah. There you go. There you go.
I think that also, you know, it's kind of answered by just a list of some of the projects we have going on, right? We do have a TIA miner project going on. We have an NFT project going on. There's the critter, which is the CBD for pets.
That's nothing to do with software, except an e-commerce angle, which is only one little part of the business.
Right. There's the CDL jobs, which I guess is kind of partially a software company,
It's
right?
assumed
Just
that it
because
can
of the
benefit from the software, but
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's not. It's not like, oh, we're going to build this software product and then go, you know, resell it to everybody. I mean, that's one possible business model that we could use, but there's thousands of other ones. We're not limited to any given any specific thing.
Right. So yeah, I just think that just by listing off what was that 4 or 5, you know, there's a pretty wide breadth of ideas and projects already out there. So, bring whatever you got.
Straight up.
And what happens to my Hoove? Like, let's say I join, but then like don't do anything with it after, or like kind of drop off the face of the earth. Kind of what happens.
Yeah, you join and you get 5,000 AR, and if you don't do anything with it, it just sits there, and you have it. It's like
And
lost,
also,
like lost money. I mean, a bunch of us will probably try to say, "Hey,
yeah.
why don't you just give it to me? You're not using it. I'll take it off your hands. Thanks for the favor."
But yeah, at the end of the day, if those people drop off the face of the earth, I mean, Hoove is created, right? Something actually is created,
Yeah.
even if it is fake
And
quote crypto money, right? But it's
it will
still created,
feed the rest of the things that are going on.
right?
So it's I don't know that anybody else is creating a token that's limited by the people that are involved in the community. I imagine once people actually start understanding what we're doing. I think that once people understand what we're doing, everybody's going to do exactly it this way because there's no more rational way to do it. But no, I don't know that anybody else is really doing it. It has a tokenomics quite like this.
Yeah, and I think some of that was evidenced, at least from my perspective. Adrian and Roger, you actually met them, but the hash green guys, um, they were a little bit confused as to the total theoretical limit of the amount of Hoove that can ever be created, and they were like, "Well, what, what do you mean?" And it's really literally only limited by the number of people on Earth from today forward, minus the people who already are part of Hoove, right? And it was just, it seemed to me from the outside looking in, like I said, you guys met them, but that they were a little bit confused and in wonderment of that whole idea.
Well, he kind of got it. He started asking questions like, "You don't want to be, you don't want to allow like rug pulls and stuff like that." And I'm like, "We don't have to worry about that because that's not the way it's structured." And then when we explained it, he got like the math guy in him got it, and it was really cool to kind of watch that dawn on him. And yeah, and I've heard multiple times of people saying like, nobody's doing it quite like this, and they are. The only thing that this does require, however, is a group of people at the start to take on some responsibility. And that's like the exact opposite of crypto these days. Like, oh, I have to take on risk. No, I'm not doing that. I want to do it where I get all the benefit and don't have to do any risky thing. Which is why you get rug pulls and why you get all any of this stuff, because it costs nothing to produce all of this thing. It costs nothing to pump it on Twitter. And then just kind of run off. But then getting people who are actually going to take on some responsibility, nobody's going to do it. So that's really the only limiting factor to seeing a model like this,
And that actually makes me just to be explicit on a point in case anyone's listening to this later. Like, if you join as a Hoover, there's no like financial commitment that you have to make. Like, we're not asking you to put in your own money or anything like that. At this point, it's like money is generated by the business that you create. It's not like a pay us to help you start a business type situation.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point.
Yep. It doesn't cost anything to join. But, you sort of said it, like all the revenue that comes from your business is passed through Hoove. So you don't get to touch it. So if your goal is to just kind of get money out of people and then run off, this probably isn't good for you because you're not going to be able to run off with the money. But if you want to build a business and have it properly run and accounted for, this is how you would do it without having to pay to incorporate, pay for an accountant, pay for all these things that you need to pay for in order to run a company. You don't have to take on those costs and those risks to get your thing started. You don't have to invest your 401k and your life savings into building a software product that nobody will ever see, which so many people have done. And
I feel attacked, Roger.
Huh?
Sorry, it was a joke. I said I feel attacked.
Actually, Jason's got the best story on that. He'll always say like he fell into that hole too. He went way deeper than you did too, Adrian. In his, well, we all did it. Like I blew cash on one too. We all learned that lesson the hard way. We're just trying to say don't learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
It's not a lesson worth learning the hard way. Too many of us did growing up in the startup industrial complex. The next gen doesn't have to.